Welcome to the SEC on ESPN. We're in Thompson Bowling Arena on the campus of the University of Tennessee, where tonight the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets come to town to pay a visit to now the number 5 ranked team in the land, the defending SEC regular season champion Tennessee Volunteers. Alongside my good friend and Sultan of the SEC, played for Arkansas, of course, NCAA coach Jimmy Dykes. I'm Karl Ravech. Welcome. Looking forward to what should be a fantastic year in this conference. And for Tennessee, Jimmy, they didn't have to reload. They didn't have to rebuild. All they're trying to do is reclaim that crown that they won last year. They're in a great spot to do it, aren't
You're
they?
right. They didn't have to reload, but they are loaded.
Yeah.
They checked all the boxes, Karl. And, right now in college basketball, whether it's a conference championship you're talking about or a Final Four appearance, old wins in college ball. And Tennessee's an old team. Older doesn't necessarily make you better. Better makes you better. And this is a Tennessee team that has worked their tail off in the offseason. I think they've done a terrific job of flushing last year's success out of their system. They are dialed in to have an outstanding season.
They're going to start a couple of seniors and 3 juniors. And, of course, Grant Williams was the SEC Player of the Year last year. He's the preseason SEC Player of the Year this year. And he's had Rick Barnes in his ear, almost suggesting, well, last year may have been a bit of a fluke. Go out there and earn it again this year if you really want to be the SEC Player of the Year.
One thing that I love about this Tennessee team is Rick Barnes can hard coach his superstar Grant Williams as much as he can, the true freshman. And he has put the challenge in front of Grant Williams. Last year, maybe you won this thing because of the votes being split amongst other good players in the league. Go out and prove it this year that you're the best dude in this league. Right. Grant Williams is more than capable of doing it again.
Rick Barnes, 4th year, is 32nd overall, 4th year here with Tennessee. And for all the great success and the rebuilding of programs that he's done, and you know that very well, he's yet to make a Final Four, and this is a team that certainly has that potential if they stay healthy and they play good basketball, even better than last year. And we've seen the Kentuckys and Kansases of the world and the Dukes. And now we get our first real look at this team in orange and white tonight. Their point guard is Jordan Bone. He's a scorer and he's a penetrator and he's got experience. Jordan Bowden with the ball in the left wing. Admiral Schofield shoots first, no good, and the rebound for Georgia Tech. It's Jose Alvarado, their point guard.
You're going to watch a complex offensive system from Georgia Tech tonight, a combination of kind of the Princeton style, the old Johnny Orr at Iowa State, Dana Altman at Creighton. They lift that offense high. You're susceptible to giving up backdoor cuts if you don't defend it with a high IQ. There it is.
There it is. The operative word, cut, on this team. Layup is missed, rebound, and the putback is good. That's the big fella, Agbule Gay, and they'll call him AD as he makes the first bucket of the night. Full court pressure, and it's broken by Tennessee. Kind of offense will we see from the Volunteers?
Well, they're terrific at getting at side-to-side reversals and those backside post-ups for Grant Williams and Schofield on the inside, Alexander. But their offense tonight is going to have to function at a high level, Karl, because Georgia Tech, they'll play man. They opened up the first possession in man. They'll play a 1-1-3 zone. They'll play a 1-3-1 zone, a 2-3 zone. Josh Pastner, since his days at Georgia Tech, has just kind of schemed his way defensively to make this team better.
Curtis Haywood picks up the first foul of the night. On the shot clock, and Bone will force it. In and out, and the offensive rebound is picked up by Kyle Alexander, and they'll start it again.
The size of Tennessee is a concern for Georgia Tech in this game. Can their first shot defense be good and not give up those second ones?
Went to double Alexander. He fades away and gets it to go.
Karl, I think he's really good. Kyle Alexander. I don't think they lose last year to Loyola if he's on the floor. He didn't play because of an injury, and he would have taken away 3 or 4 baskets in that ball game and maybe projected Tennessee to that Final Four last year.
Whole bunch of NBA scouts have made their way through Tennessee's early season games and practices, and it's maybe Kyle Alexander who's drawing the most attention on a team that's got Williams and Schofield, who are NBA potential players. And there's a shot forced up as Alexander did not foul. there's a foul on Alvarado. He was looking for a foul down the other end, commits one on this one.
Kyle Alexander is very good right now at getting deep post touches, but where he's expanded his game is right there. He can now catch it shoved off the post, square those shoulders up, and has a high release, almost an unblockable shot for a kid 6'11" at the 8-foot mark.
And it's early, but he's 10 of 15 from the field so far this season. His defensive presence, he's got 7 blocks in a couple of games. And he comes from a family of basketball players. His sister, Kayla, was the all-time leading scorer at Syracuse. Schofield launches again. Look at Alexander working. He got fouled, and it doesn't go, but he'll go to the free throw line.
They move when the ball is in flight. Talking about Tennessee, all 5 guys are in motion. 2 are sprinting back to defensive balance, and the others are crashing the glass. Alexander has that ability to just simply make plays over the top of you because of that 6'11" length and that 7'5" wingspan.
3 team fouls for Georgia Tech here. 2 minutes and 40 into the game. Rick Barnes with a win would tie John Wooden all-time, 26 on the all-time win list with 664.
We lifted weights with Coach today. We stretched with Coach today. We did plyometrics with Coach today. We ate lunch with Coach today. We practiced with Coach today, and we listened to a pep talk from Coach today.
He raised the bar.
He raised the bar in terms of access to your program.
The expectations are now off the charts. Do we forward our menus and what we want to eat to the coaches before we show up?
Boy, Tech lives off those elbow touches, and Tennessee wants to discourage those looks.
Good shooter Evan Cole. They sloughed off him for a second. He didn't take it. And they'll start with 5. Long 3. Way off the mark from Phillips. Shambari Phillips, who of course played here at Tennessee and transferred, draws nothing but the backboard. There's a foul, and the body of Williams draws that. He'll go to the free throw line to shoot 2. 4th team foul on Tennessee. Cole picks up his first.
Ravi, it's a mistake made defensively by 34 Gay because he had Williams kind of double teamed at about the 12-foot mark. Then he backed out of the double team, allowed Williams to square his body up and get the shot up on the rim.
Yves Pons will check into the game. Jordan Bone will go out, which means Jordan Bowden will move over and play a little more of the point guard. Something that Bowden worked on during the summer.
It's interesting, Bowden now will handle the point offensively, and Yves Pons will take the defense responsibility. He is a nightmare defender on ball, although he's 6'5". They feel like he can guard a quick point guard like Alvarado.
Alexander tough on the defensive end. That ball won't go in. And a run out for the Vols. It's Bowden finding Williams, who lays it in. Nice pass from Bowden to Williams. And an early 5-point lead for the Vols.
Ravi, at times, Grant Williams, although he's 6'7" and 250, almost becomes a 4-guard on the floor with his ability to rim run with speed. Well done, Grant Williams.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Sling TV, the live TV you love with no long-term contracts. Watch 7 days free at sling.com.
Tennessee River there as Tennessee is up 5 over Georgia Tech here early. Carl Ravitch, Jimmy Dykes here. Take a look at the Tennessee season preview, and all arrows point up. They are picked to finish 2nd in the SEC at the Media Day poll. Kentucky won. 14 players returned from last season, which is like the whole team. So they're all back. And of course, the 2 studs on the team, Admiral Schofield and Grant Williams, now have complementary players around them. They had a lot of depth last year. It wasn't as good as it is this year. The quality of their depth is better. You're returning 90% of your scoring from last season, which is the highest in the SEC. Their rebounding, their field goal percentage, all those numbers obviously are back for them this year.
They are, and now the question is, can the depth become better? Because last year, Rick Barnes was the first to say he thought his bench was soft, too soft to win a national championship. So guys like Pons now that check in and Walker when they come in, they have to come in and produce at a much higher level than they did a year ago.
Brandon Alston has checked into the game. He wears number 4. Moses Wright also into the game for Georgia Tech, wearing number 5. Alvarado drives to the hole, can't get it to go. And they've had a couple now go all around and out.
But that was a good decision at the rim by Alvarado. He's 5'11". He got there, the rim was clear, so he tried the layup attempt. At times so far in his career, he's made wrong decisions when he gets to the rim.
Georgia Tech 1 of 6 from the floor so far. And you have Wright out at the top handling the ball. Now he picked up his dribble and he's in some trouble. Blocked at the rim by Alexander. With 9 on the shot clock, and that's his first tonight.
You won't see a better 15 seconds of team defense in the month of November than what we just saw from Tennessee. They stayed between their man and the basket. They choked away the backdoor cuts, and they were so alert on ball screen action.
3 goes, and just like that, the 5-point game is down to just a couple. Corner, Schofield matches the shot by Wright.
Such a hard guy to match up with. He's a career 37% three-point shooter and can just overpower you at that third guard position.
Fulkerson has come into play defense. Number 10, he's going to get the foul with a push from behind. It's Fulkerson's first.
Admiral Schofield is, in any award that he gets postseason, he will have earned it all, because this guy is a relentless worker of his jump shot and his game, and he's gone to the very cool Oakley glasses this year. Right?
Yes, Sylvester Obunda's come in. Yeah, he went with the Oakleys, and that ball is kept alive, but right into the hands of Fulkerson. Schofield for years, even in high school, considered wearing glasses, but he didn't like the old school glasses that guys like Abdul-Jabbar and Kurt Rambis were wearing. Now he's got these cool Oakleys, so that works for him. Looking to become a more complete player, and he fades and can't get that to drop. Schofield went to the NBA tryout camps to get a feel for where he would be drafted. Didn't hire an agent, and he discovered a lot about himself, and that's the reason he's back here, meaning I can still develop.
I think it's a very mature conversation we had with him today, because he talked about the feedback opened his eyes to how he can make this team better. I think that's a very mature thought process for a kid at the college level to come out of the NBA draft combine and go through the process. But the message that he came back with, how can I make my team better? And boy, that bodes well for Tennessee. They move their feet so well, Ravi, on the defensive end, and they show their hands on drives. They defend well without fouling, and that's of great value.
And that was Schofield, who's now going to get a breather as he comes out of the game. Pons back in. Fulkerson finally healthy after a couple of years of injuries, multiple surgeries as a freshman. Played in a handful of games, and then he got hurt, and he just could not get healthy. Number 10 dislocated his right elbow, fractured his wrists, later had a left shoulder. He tore a labrum. And they expect some big things. A lot of folks associated with the program consider him, Fulkerson, an X factor on this team.
Yeah, because he plays with reckless abandon. That's kind of equated to some injuries for him. And good job of circling the post and just moving his feet right now. And a taller guy, Obunda.
Another turnover as the pressure defense of Tennessee forces Georgia Tech. Gonna giving it up. Fulkerson, good position, and he got a foul on Obunda.
Boy, Tennessee tries to punch you around the rim in transition early, whether it's Fulkerson, the first guy down, or Grant Williams, or Schofield, or Alexander, just constantly throwing that first punch the first 4 or 5 seconds of the possession.
There's Josh Pastner. And Josh in his 3rd year here, his 10th year overall. This is a little different for him. He's got a team that likely going to shoot a lot of threes, which is something he's not used to. They're going to pass and cut and keep cutting and keep cutting and keep cutting. I know he asked you today, what do you think about my offense? It's a little different. What do you think?
I thought it was outstanding. Again, it's a combination of, for basketball purists back in the days, Johnny Orr at Iowa State and Dana Altman at Creighton ran a lifted offense like that, where that offense was triggered off that high post touch, a big that could pass the ball backdoors. The movement is really good, but they're up against a defensive team tonight that has terrific discipline like you must have against this.
DeVoe, 0 ball handler, 3 turnovers in a row, and now 4 turnovers in a row. Fulkerson looks like he may have caught an Abunda elbow.
Look at Fulkerson again, just kind of halfway circling the post, making Obanda guess what side that he's on. You don't want to obviously do that in a dribble handoff situation, but Tennessee does not want that ball to be cleanly caught at the elbows tonight.
Schofield back in for Tennessee. 12:50 to go, an 11-5 ball game. Six on the shot clock, and his feet moved, and that's Bone struggling early a little bit with a turnover.
Just not a lot of offensive movement, player movement in that possession, Ravi, and that's the thing that Georgia Tech can do to you. They can kind of disguise their man-to-man defense with an initial zone alignment. You have to cut it, you have to drive it, and make sure you know what you're matched up against.
Phillips fading and a tough shot and an air ball. Bone kicks it to Pons, who's worked a lot on his shot. Not shown there as he throws up an air ball from the corner. Here's DeVoe. He had a man open on the baseline. Phillips kept his feet, and the jumper goes for 2. Pretty good ball movement that time on the floor for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, in transition, if you can get the ball to the other third side of the floor, more times than not, you will have an open, spotted up shooter. Georgia Tech executed to perfection.
Moses Wright, second field goal. Schofield using that body of his. He got nudged out of the way. And we're going to get a foul on the floor. Take a timeout here. 11:28 to go. Tennessee up 4 over Georgia Tech. A lot of preseason tournaments and now in season. We got Thanksgiving coming up. The Basketball Hall of Fame tip-off tournament. Semifinals Saturday. John Beilein's Michigan Wolverines against GW. South Carolina will take on Providence. You got a Springfield bracket. You also got a Naismith bracket in this tournament. Sunday's the championship game on ESPN at 1:30. The AP top 10 storylines. Duke has moved into the top spot. In spite of the fact that Kansas hasn't lost a game, they were one. Duke was awfully impressive in their win over Kentucky. So the voters said you're new #1. Tennessee moves from 6 to 5, their first top 5 ranking in over 10 years. And Nevada out west the Wolfpack, a high ranking as well. I kind of understood the move from Duke to 1 and Kansas to 2. Doesn't really matter a lot right now.
No, it doesn't. I would have kept Kansas there. You know, Duke can be had. They're such a young team, so explosive in transition. But they're going to face someone at some point that puts them in a half-court game and really makes them work and see if they can make enough jump shots to beat them. But you cannot ignore the talent that they have. Good enough to win the whole thing. But Kansas, so impressive last night. Vermont was a tough out. I had Vermont last year, Kentucky. Almost won the ball game. Yeah. They're not a tough team. They're not an easy team to beat. But Azubuike just unload around the rim, and Grimes plays with so much poise, Ravi, for a freshman. Just he glides around the floor like an upperclassman.
And LeGerald Vick became, wow, Pistol Pete Maravich there.
He was, wasn't he? Was he 8 for 8? I think, did he end up 8 for 8? Man.
Well, Tennessee's defense is forcing Georgia Tech into terrible shots.
Yep. Hard guarded looks.
As a result, they are not doing well at all when it comes to shooting from the floor. Just 3 of 11 so far tonight.
Grant Williams will just wear you out and blow you up on post-ups. When he sits on your legs are taken out of the play. He has the quickness to go get passes that aren't just always on time or on target to him. He's just a load, and he has really developed his game, but he understands who he is, and who he is a mid-post mismatch monster.
6'7", 230 out of Charlotte. Remember last year he kind of faded down the stretch, and then you heard about the back, which he heard earlier in the season. I think it was against LSU. And the explosive, kind of angry playing Grant Williams is a different animal, and that's who's back this season.
How engaging was he with us today? I mean, we were here for about 9 hours. He had a lot of time to be with us, but he was so engaging, wasn't he?
He drank the Rick Barnes Kool-Aid, which is,
yes.
You should hang out with these dudes, because that's what I'm doing all day.
It was awesome.
Contested shot again. That one draws iron, and over the back goes Evan Cole. His second foul, and they are deep into the bonus now. Their 9th team foul. So more free throws for Tennessee.
We've talked about Tennessee's defense. Their number 1 and number 2 goal tonight is contained. Number 10 in blue, Alvarado. He's the guy that drives this entire offense for Josh Pastner. And if he gets paint touches and kickouts, those threes will be there, and you have to keep Alvarado under control. He plays a style of game like you would expect a 5'10" kid from Brooklyn, New York to play.
Right.
A lot of moxie, a lot of toughness, zero back down, and he's the heart of this team.
0 for 2 so far from the floor, and last year he led all Division I freshmen in minutes per game at 35. Challenge for Josh Pastner and Georgia Tech. When he comes out of the game, then what do they do?
Yeah, they look different, and not in a good way.
Right. Alexander forcing another tough shot, and the defense has been special. Gay had nowhere to go with that.
A.D. Gay will take 2 or 3 of those a game, just shots that he shouldn't take. Keep that ball moving.
Alvarado nearly picked it, and they force Bone to the baseline, and it'll stay Tennessee ball.
Jordan Bone was the best player in yesterday's 2.5-hour practice. He has speed that is top-level speed in this league that we don't really talk about enough. But I'm telling you, his burst with the ball is as good as any point guard in this league, and there's some outstanding ones like Jared Harper at Auburn can really go. I think Bone can stay right there with him.
Jalen Johnson, 13, checks into the game for Rick Barnes. Midway through the first. High-low didn't work. A forced pass from Grant Williams.
Yeah, the high-low, the pass was too low. It's got to be a high pass from the high-low position.
Alvarado throws one off the backboard. The shooting percentage for Georgia Tech gets worse. 3 of 14 so far. And a Tennessee ball out of bounds that apparently deflected off of a Georgia Tech player. I know it's early. I wonder, will this Tennessee team be known for its defense or for its offense?
I think both. That's why they're a threat to maybe win the whole thing this year, Ravi, because they can absolutely put you in long possessions when they're on the defensive end. I mean, they're going to make you work and earn points, and they can do the same thing on the offensive end. They're a fast transition push team, but in the half court, they can really grind you away and get to the third side and make you work.
Well, as poorly as Georgia Tech is shooting, they're only down 7. Tennessee has scored the majority of their points here recently from the free throw line. They haven't had a field goal in over 5 minutes and 31 seconds. You take a look at the struggles of Josh Pastner's team. 3 made field goals, 9 fouls. Alvarado, there's a dish down low and a bucket that is put in by Gay.
How good was that action by Alvarado and Georgia Tech? The little cross X move up top to get him going downhill. And again, his decision at the rim was perfect.
Williams, one-on-one, tough shot. It goes.
How do you guard that, Bradley?
You don't.
No, you don't.
Alston one-on-one, and he will draw the foul on Pons.
You know, Grant Williams, his footwork is so good. He can step away, but at the end of the rotation, he gets his shoulder square. Here's that X move up top, and Alvarado drags the defender, Alexander, away from the rim and frees up the guy on the opposite block. Just a high IQ play with a lot of speed out of Alvarado.
First free throws of the night for Georgia Tech, and the first one from Brandon Alston, the senior graduate, 6'5", 203 out of Vienna, Virginia. Gay out of the game. Xander, he'll fade and he'll get it to go as Tennessee continues to pound that ball inside.
Yeah, and pound is the right word to describe them. They don't settle for anything finesse in their system, in their program, in their culture.
Foul on the floor. That bucket from Alexander matches the largest lead of the night, 7 points for Tennessee. Pons picks up his second. And Alvarado, they didn't find him. And a nice drive and layup is put in by Curtis Haywood.
Just a straight line blow by that you seldom see Tennessee give up. Interesting, James Banks on the floor now for Georgia Tech. Got his clearance to play today at 2 o'clock, right?
2 this afternoon. The NCAA cleared him to play for Banks. There was a waiving of the required year of residency. Looking for a goaltend here on that call. They'll give them the goaltend and a free throw coming up. But yes, James Banks, a junior, 6'10", 240. There was some thought he'd sit out all year. Well, he's here tonight, and after a bizarre day of travel, he's on the floor for Georgia Tech.
Now, Grant Williams, his skill level for a guy that big is very unique. You can trust him in a dribble at action, and if the defender makes a mistake, he can turn the corner and finish with either hand. And once that big load gets going towards the rim, the path clears out. I thought it's a unique situation for Banks. You see him there on the screen that he found out at 2 o'clock today and was on a flight out of Atlanta to Knoxville, landed at 5. Took him about an hour to get to the team hotel. He said, I had time to change. They had me a plate full of food in my room. I ate it, got on the bus, and here I am. So he's a big-bodied guy that Josh Pastner is not afraid at all to throw in early in this first half.
Transfer from Texas, and again, the NCAA cleared him today, waiving the required year of residency, so he's got 2 years of eligibility left. And what it means for tonight, however many minutes he plays, it's just another big body, because we can see early on what Tennessee's going to try to do on the offensive end, which is to attack the inside with their size advantage.
Rather, the NCAA is going to have to come up with something that's a little more stable, a little more steady in terms of how they decide who gets cleared for the waivers and who don't. Right now, everyone's applying for a waiver because coaches are seeing that there's a lot of kids getting cleared to play that maybe don't have that perfect excuse or perfect reason. So I think you're still going to see guys getting cleared over the next 2 or 3 weeks by the NCAA. Somebody just won a lot of money at half court.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a lot of money, but he made a half-court shot in front of a packed crowd.
Surely he won something.
That's worthy.
Maybe lunch at Litton's with some orange cake.
If he won lunch at Litton's, then he's a real winner. We enjoyed lunch at Litton's today. That'd be worth a celebration like that. A little chest bump. The place went nuts. And welcome again, everybody. Jimmy Dykes, Carl Ravitch. You're looking at an atmosphere here in a town in which the football team has been down a little bit. And Rick Barnes has really changed the culture. He does that wherever he goes. But the expectations for these folks and the fact that on a 9 o'clock Eastern time start on a Tuesday, you have nearly a packed house speaks to what the expectations are and what he's done.
Yeah, and the expectations start with them. I'm talking about the guys over there on the bench. They're not going to run away from this number 5 ranking or the talk of them getting to a Final Four and win the national championship, and they have the pieces to do it. They have the size, they have the toughness defensively, and they're an old team. And you look at the last 3 national champions, Villanova, North Carolina, and Villanova again. Those were older teams with older guards, experienced players down the stretch. And I'll say it again, had Kyle Alexander not been hurt last year against Loyola, I think they win that game, and we may be talking about Tennessee going back-to-back Final Fours right now instead of trying to get to their first.
Right. And welcome everyone. Tennessee and Georgia Tech now on ESPN2 after Ball State with the victory in overtime. With Jimmy Dykes, I'm Carl Ravitch. Tennessee 21, Georgia Tech 15. And that's Jordan Bowden punching a 3, and he gets it to go. And perhaps we'll see what has been a sluggish game. Maybe they knew. We're going to be on ESPN2. We're going to save it.
Yes, that's what you do.
And Bowden just buried a 3, his first points of the night. Jose Alvarado, and they're going to get either a reach in on Schofield or a bump from Bowden, and they're going to call it on Bowden on the floor.
Well, Alvarado's causing some problems. I know he's not scoring the basketball right now, number 10 in blue, but his ability, his speed with the ball to punch the paint and make Tennessee react defensively is a concern for Rick Barnes on that bench.
Right, the concern for Pastner perhaps is going to be the leg of Alvarado, who may have gotten a little bit of a Charlie horse. Admiral Schofield comes out. And you're looking at a team in Tennessee, folks, as you're joining us here on ESPN2, that has all sorts of Final Four possibilities, national championship, legitimate aspirations. Tonight they started 2 seniors and 3 juniors. And they kick it to Johnson, who buries a 3. Back-to-back threes for Tennessee. Jalen Johnson knocks that one down, and they got a big lead, 27-15 now.
And the commitment of the first big down the floor to rim run is outstanding for Tennessee. That time was Alexander. The whole play started with him playing the point guard spot from the low block in transition.
Bowden pulls up. That's off, and we're going to get a foul on the floor. Back-to-back threes, the extra pass from Kyle Alexander set that one up.
Yeah, you say extra, I say the right pass, because Alexander's a guy in traffic. That opposite third side of the floor, the defense gets attracted, the defense gets sucked in. The gravity ability of Alexander on the block frees up a shooter on the far side. Very well done.
Yes, Alexander out of Milton, Ontario. He picked up the foul, so he'll go down the other end. And Georgia Tech, under Josh Pastner, a little different team this year that he has than years past. He expected Josh Okogie back this year. He, of course, is in the NBA now. And Ben Lammers, who was their big man last year and a real good player, he's no longer here. So they were running, cutting, long-distance shooting type offense. It's not traditional Pastner type offense.
Right.
Grant Williams leading the way. He's got 11 points. In isolation, one-on-one. Spin move, lefty, good block. Zach Williams thought he had that one going all the way down. And out of nowhere, Moses Wright was there to block it. DeVoe 3, no good. Wright active on the offensive glass. Grant Williams went straight up, and there's no foul called.
Well, that's a great no call, because Williams has the right to go straight up and down and jump from point A to point A, just like he did.
6th turnover for Tennessee. A game which was really played at a sluggish pace is picked up here in the last couple of minutes with 5 and change in the first half. DeVoe traveled. Michael DeVoe led Montverde Academy last year to a national championship. Scored 9 points in his collegiate debut, and he turns it over there.
Yeah, he's a top 50 recruit. Scored 21 points in that national championship game for Montverde. Just a big lefty guard that is the secondary ball handler behind Alvarado if Alvarado has to sit, and there will be a lot of pressure on him if he becomes that point guard tonight. We haven't seen those, I'm not going to say junk defenses out of Georgia Tech, but they have some non-traditional slides in their zone that typically they play, but Josh has gone mainly man so far.
Shambari Phillips, the transfer from Tennessee, goes all the way to the rack. Rick Barnes right away says, that's not going to happen very much. We'll take a timeout. That stops a 6-0 run, and Shambari Phillips causes Barnes to talk it over as we return to Tennessee. Tennessee River, 27-17. Barnes calls timeout. Jimmy, it does feel like we had a little meal. See that little red light underneath that bridge there? We ate at dinner there last night. It does feel like this is our first game together. Feels like we've been together for about a month.
Because today lasted a month. It was an awesome day, though, wasn't it?
It was a really special day.
Yeah, we got a workout, then we got another workout in Tennessee's weight room with Coach Barnes and his strength coach, Coach G, and then lunch, and then access to both practices, and then access to a power talk. And you and I have been ready since noon.
And of course, the football game went overtime, so now we're on ESPN2 with SportsCenter following us. And a first look for the country at this Tennessee team, ranked 5 in the nation. Picked to finish second in the SEC behind Kentucky. And certainly folks here would argue with that. How did you have your SEC if there was sort of a Jimmy Dykes preseason, top 3 or 4?
I voted Tennessee #1.
You did.
I think that's a team that they, regular season champions last year, and they bring everybody else back. And I had Auburn right there with them. I had Kentucky third. And I'm not so sure it's not going to shake out like that. Kentucky, loads of talent. That Big Blue Nation should not panic. They're going to continue to get better. They were humbled as a program. They were humbled as players against Duke, as they should be. And now they're going to have to climb their way back up that confidence mountain that you have to win an SEC title this year.
A.D. Gay at the free throw line.
Ravi, the SEC is absolutely loaded. Yeah. We've talked about Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, LSU with a good win tonight against Memphis, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt. All those teams have shown me a lot so far. This is going to be another 8-9 bid league, and boy, the ACC is loaded up just as much, if not more.
Last year, Alabama 8-10 in the conference and got into the NCAA tournament. Schofield, that one never even got above the rim, and it was blocked. He adjusts his goggles, a new look for Admiral Schofield. Now he rips him off and throws him towards his bench. 3-ball off the top of the rim, and Bowden goes to get the rebound. Tennessee is on a 3-minute-plus drought when it comes to scoring. Bone, easy bucket.
How good was the change of pace and the change of speed by Bone? Just one bounce, one speed, a hesitation, boom, and the second bounce, another speed for the freed up jumper.
Watch Tennessee work on defense. They do it all the time, and they work hard. That time Alvarado got a little space. Williams late coming over in the 3. Pulls him with an 8.
You're guarding Alvarado's moxie as much as anything. He's a small guard from Brooklyn, and he plays like all small guards from Brooklyn always have at the college level. Zero back down, huge confidence in his ability.
Williams switched to his left. He's going to get fouled. And of course, you think about Georgia Tech and the point guards out of New York. Kenny Anderson, one of them. And here's the latest. It's been a while, a little drought, but Jose Alvarado trying to carry the torch. Well, Tennessee defense has been outstanding. And again, I asked you that earlier. Will this team be known more for its offense or its defense? I'm sure they take a lot of pride in their offense, but I think the defense might be the thing that defines them. No basket has come real easy at all for Georgia Tech tonight.
No, a couple of times Tennessee has given up a straight line drive, and Rick Barnes immediately made a substitution. He's a high accountability coach, but that's what Tennessee won last year, Ravi. They were consistently the most tough, high character together team that this league had for a 3-month period. And those type of teams that are older, they cut down nets, and that's why Tennessee will be right back in that hunt again the last couple of weeks of the SEC regular season hunt.
First real test for both of these teams this early season. In baseball, it takes a while for a team to get going, and we have Memorial Day as one of these milestones. How quickly should a team be playing at its top when you're a college basketball team? right away?
It depends on the age of the team. So for Tennessee, they should be further along than Georgia Tech. And Rick Barnes has some things right now at halftime he's not going to be pleased with. Again, Georgia Tech's ability just to beat guys off the bounce. It's not their scheme. It's not their side-to-side movement. It's just Tennessee's inability to guard the ball right now has kind of surprised me.
Williams thought about it, thought again about it, then he lost it. And Wright's been tremendous on defense, causing all sorts of problems, in spite of the fact that Grant Williams has a dozen. I think that was a pass, by the way, from Alvarado.
It was, right? It was. This is a kid that is so crafty. Talking about Alvarado, and he's very good at slowing down around that free throw logo area, using it as a yield sign and reading the defense. And so far tonight, his decisions in that part of the floor have been spot on.
Mentioned that he led all Division I freshmen in minutes played. He was also 5th among ACC freshmen in points per game and 4th in minutes per game at about 35. And he's not yet come out tonight. And it's a very different team when Jose Alvarado goes to the bench. I'm not sure you can afford to take him out. You're only down 6. And Josh Pastner was very worried. We take Alvarado out, bad things tend to happen.
Yeah, they look different. And that should be the case for any starting point guard at this level. When you leave the game, your team should look different. And it obviously does for Alvarado. Maybe too much to an extreme.
Williams doubled, and the ball deflected out of his hand and off Williams. Let's do a little more on Jose Alvarado, Jimmy, with some chalk talk.
Number 10, Alvarado, 5'11", their most explosive guy. He's fast, he attacks with equal hands. He shoots it multiple ways, off the bounce, off the catch, comes off curls, dangerous offensive weapon. His decisions at the rim, you don't want to bail him out. He can get to the rim often, but he also gets in there because he's 5'11" and struggles with his decisions at times. Do not foul Alvarado when he gets to the rim. It's the most important thing about him. Winning is more important than breathing to this guy. A small guard from Brooklyn, New York. This guy is one competitive dude.
Well, I know you mean that sort of hypothetically. Winning is more important than breathing, because he'd probably need an oxygen tank or two, given where the team is.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Wow.
If he had to make the choice, and but he drives this team. All those minutes he logged last year, going through that ACC as a true freshman, all it did is made a tough guy tougher. And the pulse of the team is in his hands. He can coach the offense for Coach Pastner like any lead guard should be able to do. And I won't be surprised if Josh doesn't try to play him 38, 39 minutes tonight. He's that important.
Bowden makes them both. Tennessee's lead grows. It's like push-ups at a football game with points. How about the backflips the cheerleaders doing every time the ball goes through the bucket?
They've been in that weight room you and I were in today.
They're in an awful lot better shape than you and I are after what I saw in that weight room today. So a time called, $1:21 to go, 32-25. Kind of big picture here as we start this 2018-19 college basketball season, Jimmy.
Well, I think Zion Williamson is a franchise changer at the next level because his unique skill set for his body, and he has a contagious, joyful spirit about him in terms of how he plays. Kind of like Steph Curry in terms of always has that smile about him, but he doesn't sacrifice his competitive drive. I think the SEC is wide open. I think it's an 8 or 9 bid league this year, but I think that any of Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, LSU, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, those teams could all make a run at the title. I believe the ACC has 5 teams right now that are a legitimate threat to get to the Final Four. Duke, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida State, and Syracuse. I actually picked Syracuse on ESPN.com to win the whole thing. And the freshman class is absolutely loaded.
Yeah,
you could see maybe the first 7 guys in the next draft from that freshman class.
Right. A lot of them in the SEC, a lot of them in the ACC. How about an all-orange NCAA final? Tennessee and Syracuse as a possibility.
Absolutely, it could. What I love about Syracuse is I think they're going to be better offensively this year. And that 2-3 zone is just something that's just so difficult to handle in that short turnaround. The transfer from East Carolina, Hughes, I believe is his name, is a shooter that Jim Boeheim hasn't had the last couple of years.
Well, Admiral Schofield, who ripped his goggles off earlier and threw them over to his bench, had really kind of gotten excited about wearing those things. He said sometimes the light messes with my eyes and makes things blurry, but he acknowledged he was just trying them out. He was not going to go old school like Abdul-Jabbar and Horace Grant and Rambis. He said we're going to leave those in the past, and I think perhaps those goggles are now left in the past.
Those are expensive Oakley, right?
They are. Colorado, no Bam, and the rebound to Tennessee.
It sure looked like a Bam when it left his hand, right? Boy, that forward-facing transition ball screen up top, Ravi, it's something simple but so difficult to defend.
This is the matchup they want. Williams down low, and he got hammered.
There's a Bam.
That was certainly a Bam. James Banks came over and hammered Grant Williams.
But I think if you're Georgia Tech, you have to send the message right back to Grant Williams. You can't let him play through your chest, and that's what Banks jumped on a plane at 2 o'clock today to get up here to be another physical, strong guy around the rim against the power that Tennessee can throw at you.
That's his first. And again, if you're just joining us, James Banks, the junior. He was cleared today by the NCAA. They waived the required year of residency. The transfer from Texas has 2 years of eligibility left. This now and the next. There was some concern he missed the entire season after transferring from Texas, but obviously that's not the case. The NCAA today cleared him roughly 2 o'clock. He said he looked at his phone because he was in the gym working out. He had like 17 calls from his head coach. All of his teammates were like, where are you?
Get on the first direct flight on Delta from Atlanta to Knoxville, and he was on it. I think we're going to see a lot of full court press by Tennessee this year. They're so good in the half court defense. If they can kind of choke the possession down with full court pressure and only give you 20 to work with, they could become a juggernaut. We'll take this as close to 1 on that shot clock as you can, and don't let Tennessee fire one in at the buzzer.
Alvarado, and that's going to be a kick.
Turn the shot clock off because it's going to be reset to 15. So now they can take the very last shot of the first half, Georgia Tech.
Haywood on Schofield. Launches blocked. Schofield now ace out of bounds. And that will wind the clock to 0.
Ravi, that is a very important and magnificent one-on-one defensive play by Schofield to just chew up the shooter's hand. He knows that Haywood 13 is going to come to that right side, so he uses his left hand, his left paw, to go up to take it away. What could have been a dagger of a momentum shot for Georgia Tech going into the half.
Good defensive half for Admiral Schofield. 33-25. Send you back to the studio. Robbie Hummel with Molly McGrath. Welcome back to Knoxville, Tennessee and Thompson Bowling Arena, the SEC on ESPN. Alongside Jimmy Dykes, I'm Carl Ravitch, and it's 33-25 in favor of Tennessee, the 5th-ranked team in the land, looking to go 3-0 on this early season. That was not a Final Four type first half, really from either team, but certainly not what you expected from Tennessee. Each team made only 9 field goals, 9 of 21 and 9 of 31, and if it weren't for Grant Williams, it wouldn't be an 8-point lead.
No, it was not, and this is a rock fight right now. Both teams, I think, are locked in defensively, especially Tennessee when you consider they've held Georgia Tech to 29% from the floor. And Georgia Tech has missed 22 shots in this game. They've only got 5 offensive rebounds, so their offensive rebound rate is below 25%. Grant Williams is the difference in the ball game. This is a guy that you have to guard his shoulders as much as anything, maybe as much as anyone that we have in the college game. He's so powerful in the upper body. He can rim run with terrific speed, like an SEC tight end type guy, body athletically. But he's gotten to the free throw stripe 11 times because, again, you're guarding his shoulders as much as anything else in this basketball game. And Georgia Tech right now doesn't have the strength to hold up with his shoulder strength.
6'7", 230 is Grant Williams, who last year was the SEC Player of the Year. He's certainly a leading candidate this year. He's only a junior. He could do it 3 years in a row if he decided to come back for his senior year. And the list of SEC players that have won Player of the Year 3 years in a row is short, and it's got some impressive names on it, like Bernard King, and Pistol Maravich, and that's it.
That's a very short list. I don't think Grant Williams will be an early entry into the NBA. I think this is a guy that's locked in to earning master's degrees and continuing to focus on just becoming the best college player he can and then grind his way through. Once he is in that NBA, I think he's going to be a 10-year guy that has a career, maybe not as well as some of these other guys that have gone on, but he will get on a roster and stick because of who he is as much as anything.
Easy cut through, and Jordan Bone increases the lead to 10.
Doesn't his speed kind of surprise you, Ravi?
It surprised me that we didn't see a lot more of it in the first half.
Yeah, and Rick Barnes wants him to push that gas pedal down in transition and go.
Alvarado was only 1 of 7 from the floor in the first half, and there's another turnover for Georgia Tech.
I think that's the biggest key in the second half for Tennessee. You cannot let Alvarado, number 10 in blues, get loose and get active as a scorer. He was 1 for 7, and you have to make sure you keep a chokehold on him right now because he drives this team. Watch Bone. He stays low through traffic, low and fast through traffic, gets you to the rim. Well done by Zero.
On the tie-up, the ball will stay with Tennessee. What do you think the halftime speech from Barnes was like?
I think he lit his guys up for not guarding the ball well. And there's a severe lack of accountability in college basketball in most programs in guarding the ball. And it all starts with there. I don't care what you're doing on the backside and how you're rotating and what you're doing on the weak side of the floor on the white line or not. If you can't guard the ball, you can't play for Rick Barnes. And I'm sure that was his message to 3 or 4 guys.
Alvarado picks up his second. Pastner was looking for that elbow that Bone through, but that was an invasion of space there by Alvarado, and he gets the call. Admiral Schofield didn't have a good first half. He also made only 1 shot with 6 attempts. There's a chance, by the way, that both Schofield and Williams on a turnover each eclipse 1,000 points in their career tonight. Alston will get the foul, so another turnover for Tennessee, and they continue to look sloppy here to start the second half. Bowden picks up his second.
Tennessee's had 4 or 5 just careless turnovers.
Yeah.
Like the defense didn't have anything to do with it. It's like, what color jersey are we wearing tonight?
I like your blue. I think blue is a good color. I like your jersey tonight.
Thank you. My best for you, our first of many nights together.
And shoes, I mean, you're all like, I don't go with the suit shoe look. Do I need to step the game up a little?
Well, we will watch this film tomorrow as a staff, and we'll kind of do our evaluation and see where we can get better.
All right.
I mean, no one's on their top of their game in November, but we have to get better, and it will all start with how we dress on game night.
There you go. So accountability.
Yes. Now here's Georgia Tech trying to muck it up a little bit with this 1-3-1, which is a 2-3 high wing lifted zone, but you have to get the ball below free throw line extended. If you do, you get open looks.
Williams picks up another 2, and he's got 13 on the night. That's a term we heard Josh Pastner use today, muck it up.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to have to do it offensively as well. Gay gets forced away from the bucket. Pass cut, pass cut. That's what you'll see a lot from Georgia Tech if you watch him this year. Cole, who's a good 3-point shooter, hasn't taken a shot tonight. And we have 3 on the shot clock. Alvarado way short. An air ball and a shot clock violation. Schofield may have hit that with his fingers, so we'll see if the shot clock violation occurred before that. I think Admiral knew it, and he's kind of shaking his head with a half smile on his face, walking back towards his bench.
Did Admiral touch this? It hit the rim, actually. Did he touch it?
And he did touch it.
So the shot clock is completely out of the equation. And I believe that's going to be Georgia Tech ball.
Should be. I don't think they saw that it hit the rim, and it clearly on that replay looked like it changed direction.
Yeah.
And Schofield, an honorable young man, looked at the official like, yeah, I did, I touched it.
He clearly gets it off. I mean, he gets it off in plenty of time, which normally during the course of the game you can go to the monitor if you're an official if the shot clock in question, if it's a made basket. They're allowed to go there right now because the question is, did it go off of Admiral Schofield before the shot clock expired? And now they're over there and they realize, okay, there's no shot clock violation. Admiral touches it, and it will be Georgia Tech ball.
Doug Shouse is our crew chief tonight. Joe Lindsay and Lee Cassell. That's Cassell and Shouse looking at the...
Ravi, those officials, they really pour themselves into the game. I was invited to one of the 4 NCAA officiating clinics back in the fall. J.D. Collins, the head of the basketball officials, hosted with Hank Nichols and guys, and I was with them all day long like you and I were in this building all day long today. But they really care about their job. They love the game. They get into officiating because they love basketball. And well, they take it seriously. The level of accountability on these guys after a game in terms of how they're evaluated is 3 or 4 layers.
So we get a fresh 30. We were told timing error, and it's Georgia Tech ball with a 10-point lead for Tennessee. Okay, in the paint, lefty, tough shot, and it won't go, and Williams picks it up in a push.
See how Bone read that free throw line? It was like a yield sign.
Yep.
And the traffic told him what to do. The traffic told him to stop off of 2 feet, reverse the ball, and get the half-court offense going. It was very well done. A simple play, but well done.
Now he drives baseline, reverse, can't get it to go. Williams works hard, and he gets fouled.
He gets grown man rebounds, doesn't he?
One of the things he talked about that he had to do, and earlier today, both he and Schofield got to be a little more aggressive on the boards. There was a conversation that Grant Williams had with Rick Barnes that lasted 30 minutes on the court following a practice in front of the media that continued in the locker room after. And it was about what has become sort of our word of the night is accountability, but he really demanded more out of Grant Williams. And rebounding and being tenacious on the glass was one of those things that he wanted him to work on. Figures Grant Williams could be a double-double guy every night.
Should be. But how has Rick Barnes built this into the #5 team in the nation? It's through recruiting guys that want to be hard coached every day.
Largest lead is mapped here, Jimmy, 39-27.
And as much success as Tennessee's had and Schofield and Grant Williams have had and will continue to have, they get hard coached every day. They take it, they look in the eye, yes sir, no sir, and go right back to work. That is a tremendous value to any team in college ball when your best players are like that.
Cole finally takes his first and may have created a more difficult shot. Bowden all the way to the hole. And Alexander's going to get called for the foul. He doesn't believe it. He picks up his second.
Ravi, on film, Georgia Tech in their exhibition game and first game, they are content to run with the speed of the offense and their transition defense. Tennessee is starting to sniff that out, and they are flooding that floor right now with speed from defense to the offensive end.
Well, Bowen almost had a turnover. So you talk about this idea that you can look at Williams and Schofield in the eye, they'll take it, and then they'll apply it. Are you suggesting that that's not always the case?
It's not always the case. Unfortunately, it's not. A lot of kids run from hard coaching. And if you can build your, let's say that you have a freshman that gets his butt kicked the first week of practice, the first month, or maybe the entire year. Does he continue to come back and battle with the right body language? That's the kind of guys that Rick Barnes has targeted in recruiting. That's why they are who they are right now.
Georgia Tech commits another turnover, and Bone, good defense underneath the block. And here comes Alvarado. They got a 5-on-4, and Cole launches a 3 way long. Well, he has been off with just 2 shots and a fairly good shooter too from the outside. Paint to Schofield, tied up there, and he may have tweaked his right knee. He's limping around there on the baseline as Admiral Schofield searches for either the seat and or the locker room. It's a pretty big issue here for Admiral Schofield. Take a look at his right foot there, gets stepped on, and that's what it looks like is the ankle and perhaps another part of his leg. We'll have an update when we come back. UFC. How about a Donald Cerrone Conor McGregor fight? Is that in the works? We back to basketball, and how about the 1,000-point pursuit? If they get it, Williams and Schofield, they'll become the 49th and 50th Tennessee Volunteers to get to 1,000 career points. 8 more for Williams, 7 more for Schofield. The good news for Admiral Schofield, as we saw him limp off of the court after a quick trainer meeting, he is back on the floor. So it looks like Admiral Schofield, whose body looks like it's chiseled out of rock.
Boy, it does, doesn't it?
Is okay, and he's back on the floor. 12-point lead for Tennessee. Carl Ravitch, Jimmy Dykes, and the inbounds play didn't work, so we'll call timeout and start that again.
Yeah, they didn't screen, they didn't execute.
We'll take a timeout and back to Tennessee with a 12-point cushion, 15-20 on the clock. Our next NBA Wednesday night doubleheader has Anthony Davis and the Pelicans there in Minnesota. They take on former Wildcat Karl Anthony Towns, the Big Cat, T-Wolves at 8 Eastern time. Then Lillard and the Blazers are at Staples to take on LeBron and the Lakers. And it seems like it's a good thing the Lakers have all of a sudden started to win, because we heard LeBron nearly cracked it the way they were playing. Speaking of cracking, this was not the expectation for Josh Pastner that Josh Okogie, who was here last year and scoring almost 20 a game, would go to the NBA. And he's scoring about 8.5 points a game, so he's not only in the NBA, he's making an impact. Williams with the offensive rebound.
And Ravi, I thought Josh made a great point today when he talked about, if we lose a guy early, unexpectedly to the NBA, it's different than when North Carolina or Syracuse or Duke or some of those other teams in our program in this league does it. And that's a big loss. Okogie was such a good nose for the rim transition guy with a huge motor, and they're kind of searching to replace that as much as anything.
Tough shot from Grant Williams that goes in and out, and Alvarado gets it. Georgia Tech 0 for its last 9 on field goal attempts. And so Austin works into the paint and gets smothered by Williams.
Going back to that promo, that game in Los Angeles, man, our thoughts and prayers are certainly with that part of the country. It is tragic what's going on out there, and the destruction and the loss of lives and buildings, and it would be a long time for that part of the country to recover.
Won't look the same for a long time. My son went to Pepperdine University, and other ones going out there in January. There is nothing about Malibu that looks the same as it did, a month and a half ago.
Right.
It's a terrible, terrible story. And yet there are stories of heroism and others coming to the rescue of those in need and housing people like that. Heard from somebody today that our good friend Vince Scully had to evacuate his home and move down with family to a safer place. So yeah, certainly our thoughts and prayers with all of them. It's a brutal, brutal time out there. It's something you're just so defenseless against. Sure. It's so hard to watch.
There's that 1-1-3 with the wings lifted high zone that just really kind of disrupts your offensive flow. And Josh has used it less in this game than I thought he would. He may use it a lot now with 14 to go, just to see how Tennessee executes against it.
Ball off Fulkerson. It's sort of like small market, big market baseball teams. Pastor's point about we lose Okogie, it hurts us a lot more. A small market team makes a mistake on a free agent, they get hammered.
Yeah.
Big market, you can afford that. As Fulkerson comes up with the block on Alvarado.
There's that decision at the rim I talked about in the first half that Alvarado has to grade out at an A+, and that was a C- decision because size was just ready to chew him up. I mean, he's 5'10", and he drives it right at Fulkerson, who is very active and 6'9" and long around that restricted arc. He went from point A to point A, and so now he becomes a legal defender and just chewed up number 10.
Banks picks up another foul. So you told the story of how Banks, James Banks, number 1 for Georgia Tech, found out today the NCAA had cleared him and his ability to get on a plane. There's only one guy that knew where his uniform was. They had to find that guy who found the uniform. Yeah. Boy, Alston had nowhere to go, and they're going to get Grant Williams with the foul underneath the basket. Alston put himself in a position where he could not do anything with a basketball. And they got a foul on number 2.
Well,
he got him.
Yeah, he got him. It's a transition play. And that restricted arc is something that in transition, you've got to stop that basketball to start establishing primary and secondary defenders. But the body contact with Grant Williams was an easy call. It really was. Georgia Tech does not, they don't have enough offense, Ravi, unless number 10 in blue gets going. They can't win this game unless Alvarado somehow gets to double figures, 12 or 14 points, and he's got a long ways to go.
Within 10. The bench has really done damage for Georgia Tech tonight, scoring the majority of their points. Fulkerson had Bone in the back cut. Instead, Schofield launches a 3. Can't get it to go. And how about Fulkerson? We saw the block. Now the offensive rebound. And not that time. Cold shooting for Tennessee continues. Right. Another block by Fulkerson. And a run out here for Bowden. Finds Alexander, and we're going to get a foul underneath on DeVoe. But how about the ovation for Fulkerson, John Fulkerson's defense.
Fulkerson may be the 10th fastest guy on the floor in terms of a foot race, but he also may have the largest Valentine of anyone on the floor. His recovery speed on that play was outstanding. Just a will to win. Again, Fulkerson playing with reckless abandon.
Free throw from Alexander is good.
Gosh, Ravi, you win with guys like that. I mean, that's just a winning play.
Yep.
It doesn't show up anywhere on the stat sheet, but tomorrow Rick Barnes in film will say if we get 10 guys playing like this every game, we will be the SEC champs.
Had a lot of minutes as a freshman, then he broke his right wrist and dislocated his elbow in mid-December. In spring, he tore his labrum in his left shoulder, had surgery for that. And now it looks like Fulkerson is finally healthy. In and out on the 3. We're going to get a foul on Banks, and that looked like they both went up for it. And Pastner's not happy with the call as he lets Doug Shows know it.
Well, there's been 3 or 4 plays in the last couple of minutes. Josh Pastner feels like that Tennessee has gone over the back and there's not been a whistle, and then he gets one on his end right in front of his bench. So he's just making sure that this officiating crew understands if it's on the back, call it, but make sure we're doing it both ways.
12:58, and we're in the bonus for Tennessee. So a lot of free throws coming up for the Vols.
That's
negligible.
That is negligible. Well, it's a good stroke. It didn't go in, but a really good stroke. A kid that spends a lot of time. Tennessee actually spends a lot of time shooting a heavy ball at the free throw line for their form. You can't shoot a heavy ball without proper form and get it up to the rim. And Tennessee is one of the few teams I've seen actually uses that to develop their stroke.
They're going to get Schofield. By the way, Georgia Tech is 2 of 16 from three-point land tonight. 2 of 16.
That is one of their 2 biggest questions early in the season. How well do we really shoot the basketball? And that's judged by, can we make shots against good defensive teams? So far tonight, they have not.
Another foul called even before the ball was thrown in. They'll get Johnson his first. And the fouls continue to pile up. That's now 6 on Tennessee. Alston in amongst the trees, can't get it to go. Banks doing some work, and the ball doesn't go through the hoop.
And Georgia Tech deserved 2 points on this possession. They're not going to get it. Banks misses the layup and then comes in with a foul on Schofield, but Tennessee gave up a middle drive, and they gave up back-to-back offensive rebounds, and they should have been punished for it.
James Banks does play with an Energizer Bunny. He's got 4 fouls. He didn't even know he was going to play today after being cleared by the NCAA. And he's been active, very physical. Had that one go off his hands, so Tennessee, after a missed free throw, gets it again. And Schofield works from the free throw line. Finger roll, no good. Look at Banks.
Yeah, he's active.
Alvarado needs one. That one goes a big 3. They had gone 10 minutes without a field goal, but Alvarado's 3 pulls them within 10.
Yeah, it's that Brooklyn moxie that he plays with. I talked about in the first half, every small guard out of New York City kind of plays with that edge, that 0 back down. We said he needed to have one go in for them to have a chance. Maybe this ignites Georgia Tech.
42-33. After that Alvarado 3 brings Georgia Tech within 9. What happened on the defensive end?
Well, the conversion defense is a running, talking, pointing game, and Tennessee didn't do any of those 3. They ran to the speed of the offense, but there's no pointing, no talking, so people get sucked down into the paint, and Alvarado slips over to the slot and knocks down a huge 3. Is that the basket that gets their most dangerous guy going offensively? I'm not saying he's their most potent scorer, but he's their most dangerous guy because of the moxie and the confidence that he feeds to everyone else once his ball starts going in as well.
Yeah, there are the droughts. It's hard to believe that they are within 10, and they are shooting 23% from the floor. They're 10 of 43 and 3 of 17 from 3. They've made 1 field goal this half, and we just saw it in that 3. The athletic Eve Pons out top with the ball, hits cutting Schofield, who sends it out of bounds. And it will go to Georgia Tech. Rick Barnes said, hold on a second.
Yeah, he's asking for Joe Lindsay to help on the call. I know Schofield's had bad hands in this game.
Gay, one-on-one, Fulkerson. Left hand off the window.
How poised was Gay? Instead of turning to his left shoulder and shooting the hard guarded 2, he comes back to his right shoulder for the clean angle. That was very well done.
7-point game. Alexander will hoist a 3 and find the bottom of the basket. Welcome to college basketball 2018 when you're 6'11" guys out there shooting 3s.
Yep. The NBA game is an outside-in game, and his ability to cover ball screens and maybe knock down a perimeter shot like that and rim run, he may find himself in the league. There's that forward-facing ball screen, Ravi, that's simple, but it's hard to defend. It puts the ball screen defender in a bind. If you get on one shoulder or the other, it's an automatic slip to the rim.
Fulkerson looking for some help. Who's going to give it to him? 5 on the shot clock. No foul call, but that bucket goes. Bone may be hurt. He's down underneath the basket and in some pain.
Rick Barnes actually called off the ball screen, and I like that. He felt like that Bone could go by without bringing a second defender into the play. And Bone just, again, his speed now, it's undervalued even in this league. They're blow by ability right there. It's just simply one-on-one, the crossover, and then the alertness to know where Alexander is, doesn't get surprised by the ball, but then a hard fall on the shoulder is a concern.
So Bone is up, and meantime, Georgia Tech, it looks like they're carrying Gay off the floor. He seemed to hurt his, what appears to be his right leg. And it may be a cramp.
Yeah.
A crazy sequence that resulted in Tennessee getting 2 points. And Gay's putting no pressure on either one of his legs as he's being carried to the end of the bench where they will sit him down.
You hope it's both legs cramping, and that's, I'm not going to speculate, but you certainly hope for the best situation.
went up for the block and came down awkwardly on that right leg of his. And that feels more than just a cramp.
I think it's a big possession for Tennessee to not let Alvarado see the rim again and see the ball go in. And a zone look, a big zone look, by the way, for Tennessee.
So it stays a 10-point lead. They took the basket off after a shot clock violation, so a turnover. So it stays 10. Alvarado all the way to the bucket, just like you said.
Just like I said, cannot happen.
Yep.
That's it's not the 2 points more important than who scored it. And for Georgia Tech, the right guy scored it at the right time.
Fulkerson may have some blood coming from his nose, so they call a timeout.
Gosh, the undisciplined closeout by Grant Williams, the ball fake on a 5'10" kid, and Williams took the bait. And Alvarado read it very well and got all the way to the rim. Another straight line drive off of a ball fake. Things we don't normally see that Tennessee gives up in their defense.
Fulkerson bleeding, so he's out. Bone, who looked like he was hurt, back into the game for Tennessee. Beat only 8. Here's Jordan Bone elevating and getting it to go.
And he stuck his feet on that SEC logo to a 2-footed jump stop and elevated. Very well done.
Well, DeVoe calling for a travel or double dribble.
It was something against the original 13 rules of the game, wasn't it?
10th turnover. Hall of Fame tournament bracket's got a Springfield bracket, Naismith bracket. And on the Naismith side, Michigan against GW, South Carolina, and Providence. That's Saturday. Championship game on Sunday at 1:30 Eastern time on ESPN. There's a consolation game, ESPN2, and you can always watch the games on the ESPN app from anywhere.
Love Chris Silva from South Carolina. Dude's a warrior. First team All-SEC preseason. Could make a run at the SEC Player of the Year. But last year, Ravi, he drew 9.4 fouls every 40 minutes that he played. He wears people out in terms of his activity level for a big guy.
And Michigan, a little different this year for John Beilein. Mo Wagner and company have moved on. So they are in a reload and rebuild mode. As Williams misses a free throw, and every free throw missed keeps Georgia Tech close. Alvarado with a couple of buckets here in the second half.
Pretty big zone up top. Bowden at 6'5", Bone at 6'3". Again, Shade Alvarado.
Tough bounce pass. Little guy underneath, surrounded by trees. And a two-pointer won't go. And Alvarado just rolled his ankle. And this is big for Georgia Tech. He came down awkwardly and now is going to try to walk it off as he went up for an offensive rebound. And Alvarado, who looks like he's going to stay in the game, picks up his 4th foul.
I don't know if it's an ankle or maybe he just had a temporary cramp as well. The way he grabs that calf.
Yep.
He's in there battling with the big guys. He plays with a gambler's mentality. He's a point guard in there gambling on the offensive glass. And he'll also do the same thing defensively from time to time. He can make 2 or 3 key plays with just under 9 to go to make Georgia Tech to stay in this game if you don't watch it.
They're in the double bonus, so Williams makes 1 and he makes his 2nd. He's got 17 tonight. Tennessee from the free throw line, 17 of 26, and foul trouble all over the place for Georgia Tech.
The press look changes now in the second half to a 2-2-1. They'll chew you up at the timeline. They got him. They absolutely got him.
10-second violation. Josh Pastner goes to his bench right away.
It was a great call by Rick Barnes to change his press look up from what he showed in the first half after free throws to the second half, and they just chew up Shambari Phillips at the timeline.
Alvarado has come out of the game. We'll see if that press continues now for Tennessee. Bowden pulled up. No good. We'll keep it right here. Foul underneath against Georgia Tech.
Grant Williams is a I think he's a phenomenal power offensive rebounder, Ravi, because he plays through the contact all the time. If you're going to be a good offensive rebounder, like Tuin White is, you have to accept the contact and embrace the contact game after game after game. You don't knock this guy off of his path. He sniffs out where the ball's going to go, and he gets them with 2 hands and really strong paws.
Referees may have seen something underneath that they want to look at on the replay screen, so they've moved over there as the 2 teams huddle. And meanwhile, they're putting some lotion on the legs of Alvarado, who has logged significant minutes, not only tonight, but the expectation out of Georgia Tech and Pastor is going to be that he's going to log significant minutes all season long. Seeing it for that hooked arm,
looking
which
for
is
the hook and hold between 4 in blue and 2 in white.
And that's a point of emphasis in this short break here. That's one of the points of emphasis that the officials will look for when a player hooks the arm of another. We've seen that lead to significant injuries. But a player hooking an opponent over or under the arm in an attempt to deceive the official into believing the contact was caused by the opponent. It'd be like if I hooked your arm, right, and I implied that you were causing that instead of me.
Yep, it's a dirty play that's got to get out of the game.
Just had the explanation.
Well, yeah, and now that we got to look at it, that's a textbook hook and hold. That's being emphasized this year on 4 in blue, so it's an automatic F1 and free throws and ball out of bounds under for Tennessee. But that's a deceitful play. It's a potential harm play. It caused an injury to the big kid from Purdue last year that really got the rule on the radar. And those hook and holds now, I'm telling you, they're going to get out of the game like they should be tossed out of the game.
Right. And again, for those at home, just imagine locking arms with someone and trying to get the official to believe that while you instigated it, that it was the other person that instigated it. Schofield went hard to the basket, but he couldn't get it to go.
Again, another shot that looked like a bam, right? Didn't it initially? Right?
We've been fairly bam-free tonight.
We have.
There've been a lot of clangs, but we haven't had too many bams. Williams, that's a good bucket.
How do you guard that? How do you guard him from 15 feet in?
Grant Williams has 20, the largest lead of the night now, has expanded to 15. And again, Alvarado on the bench, and everything changes for Georgia Tech. Missed there, right with the rebound. And Alston, baseline, gets that to go on a ball fake. Good hands from Hayward, deflected that ball out of bounds. How do you stop Grant Williams?
Well, I'm not sure, because once he faces up and gets his shoulders low, the game is now in his hands. A power guy with a skill set, hard to guard.
Welcome back. Talk about, embracing expectations. Grant Williams, knowing what this team's expected, he said, can't become comfortable. You never want the sequel to be worse than the first movie. Which got us to thinking about sequels that were way worse than the first movies. These are Jimmy Dykes disaster sequels.
Well, you can never just try to copy Grease again. Just leave it there with Olivia Newton-John and move on. Jaws 2, a disaster. Rocky 5, by then it was more of a love story than anything. And then Puffy, he went from Puff Daddy to Puffy, right? And that just didn't work out at all. Then to P Diddy to Diddy, you just stay with Puffy. And then remember back in '85 when Coke,
I tried to forget.
Yeah, Coca-Cola said we're going to come out with a new Coke, a disaster. 3 months later, new Coke was off, and the go back to the original. You don't want to be on that list,
right?
And that's what Grant Williams is telling us. Do you agree with Puffy?
I do. Puffy, yeah. Puffy, the new Coke thing was bad. There was why anybody would ever consider making another Jaws movie after Jaws 1.
Exactly.
Only to make money. Our boy Adnan Verk, who of course will work College Basketball Studio and has his own movie podcast. He calls it Cinephile. Right. I asked him today. He said Caddyshack 2 is the heavyweight champion. Like never.
Of the disasters?
Yes. Like who thought that was a good idea? Judge Smales was such a good character in the first Caddyshack, and yet we went to Caddyshack 2.
What was another one you said last night? Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo? What? Was that one for you?
Yes.
You actually watched that one?
No, I did not watch it. No, I didn't.
Okay.
But Deuce Bigalow should never have been made the first time. And then we're going to do it again.
That's true. And in my household, I asked them last night and got their votes in.
Right.
Legally Blonde 2.
Of course.
Should have never been made. You just stay with Legally Blonde. And that's what Tennessee's trying to make sure that their second go-around is not on that list.
Ticky-tack foul according to the Vols fans, and that's 4 on Grant Williams, who sits there with 20 points, 3 shy of 1,000 for his career. He just told his coach, I didn't touch it. And there is a monitor here in the upper left corner of Thompson Bowling and right corner where all the fans can see the replay. It's amazing how quickly fans adjust to where the monitor is to see the replay.
I'm just wondering how many households right now are having a discussion of sequels, movies that shouldn't have been made. Well, you can't ride a guy up there. There's no contact. He just slips. He just slipped. There's no contact from the angle that the official had. Probably looked like contact. That's one that's missed. The officials' accuracy level when they blow the whistle is between 90 and 93%. That's how good they are. They missed one. It's okay. Move on.
So Williams goes to the bench with 6:14 to go. A comfortable 13-point lead. Oh, boy, he has shown some elevation on that jump shot.
His jump shot and his jump stop has really been dialed in tonight. He has played so well off of 2 feet as a penetrating lead guard.
There's a foul on Schofield, and that's the big body that banged into James Banks. Hey, SportsCenter tonight, midnight Eastern time, ESPN. Kenny Mayne, 3-2-1, and John Sparky Anderson will bring you the stories. They'll have the Rockets-Nuggets post-game coverage, a preview of the Packers and Seahawks Thursday night matchup. That series has been tremendous. And what's next for Le'Veon Bell and the Steelers? I don't think there is a next for Le'Veon Bell and the Steelers. That's all over. SportsCenter, midnight Eastern time, ESPN, and the ESPN app. And the other story they'll have now is Draymond Green is not playing for the Warriors tonight. Suspended by the team for a game after Rick Barnes, former college player, Kevin Durant, and he got into it last night. What do you make of that from a coaching and front office move to tell Draymond, we didn't agree with the way you handled the end of the game, basically grabbed a rebound, didn't give it to Durant, who was calling for it, lost the ball, went to overtime, they lost the game, and then those two got into it.
I think they've sent a message, and this is the best team in basketball right now, but they understand that individual is never bigger than the team in terms of what we're wanting to do. If you have to choose, if I have to choose between Kevin Durant or Draymond Green, it's a no-brainer.
That's like Jaws 1, Jaws 2.
Yes, you're going with Kevin Durant. Yeah. I expect Draymond Green to respond the right way from it, because that is a winning culture out there that has shown the ability in the past to overcome adversity and continue to keep that train rolling. But we shall see.
Well, the train may have finally come off the tracks here for Georgia Tech, as Jose Alvarado, their Mr. Everything, has fouled out with 5:34 to go.
Been a rough night. Bone has been on him. Pons has been on him. They just have not let this guy get loose and become an offensive threat. He got a couple of paint touches early with some kickouts, but they just don't have enough offense, not only in this game, but all season long, if Alvarado is not at 14, 15 points a game.
And look, they do get Banks back today. He gets cleared by the NCAA. He's clearly a factor that they didn't anticipate getting, which will ease the burden a little bit for the rest of the team. But with regards to handling those point guard responsibilities and the outside shooting, Alvarado's your guy. There's a scrum on the floor. And wouldn't you know that it's John Fulkerson, bloodied already tonight, who's right in the middle of it.
He plays the game like you're supposed to play it. Talking about Fulkerson, like he's not guaranteed to play another basketball game in his life. He's the first one to the floor. He's a guy that will just absolutely outrun you from one end to the other. And again, if you lined all 10 guys up, he's going to finish 10th in the race.
Good hands from Schofield, and that's going to be the 5th foul on Banks. He's going to foul out. James Banks goes to the bench.
Well, that's just big time post defense by Alexander to measure the offensive player with a little bit of a reach out, hot touch, but then to back out and move his feet side to side. He is such a key guy. And you talk about all the other parts of this team, but Alexander, to me, is a difference maker if Tennessee is going to get to their first Final Four and possibly cut down the nets. He takes, makes a way around the rim.
Obanda back in, number 24. Schofield launches a 3, no good. And rebound Bowdens, who got raked in the face, but no foul called. And we're under 5 to go with a 13-point lead for the Vols, looking to go 3-0 this early part of the season. Back cut, Schofield draws contact. It doesn't go, but more frustration on the floor.
Just a high-level play by Tennessee to take the ball side to side and then come back to the third side of the floor and get a little dribble at action, or at least a look at action into a hard back cut. Fulkerson with a dribble at, and Schofield with a power move. Doesn't try to finesse it at the end and goes through the chest of the defender.
Obanda picks up his 3rd. Tennessee has attempted 31 free throws tonight. Georgia Tech half that, 15. Schofield makes 1 of 2. 31 free throws is a lot.
That also tells you kind of who you are as a basketball team. They embrace contact in the right ways on a basketball court. They can win a mucked up game like Georgia Tech has tried to do.
Fulkerson is down there. He gets some help as well from Bowden. Ball out of bounds off Tennessee.
You know those poor shooting numbers you've been talking about from Georgia Tech tonight? Rick Barnes is charting it too. He knows they can't shoot the ball well enough to win this ball game. So he's gone to his zone to take away the one thing that Georgia Tech was doing, was those drive abilities.
This is another one that was a little bit of a bunny, and it couldn't get through the outstretched hands of that defense. We are under 4, and we'll do our own little sequel. The Office 2. Yes, that they should make a sequel to. We'll dive deep into that.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Pizza Hut. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
This is literally your office. This is where you spend 90% of your time, you told me. Why did you choose to do this?
Well, you know, it actually started at Texas because, you know, my office was in the north end of the football stadium, and going from there over to the practice facility could take time. And so I found out that I just always found myself driving to the practice facility because that's where the guys were going to come. The guys at Texas were never going to come to the office because it just wasn't where they would be, and so I have always wanted to be around the players, always. And even today, the dorm is right up the street here, and they come through that door, and they're here. And so if I'm in here, I see them, I can call them over, have a conversation, show them something on my iPad, and I just like being here. And I really don't like being in confined spaces, and this is pretty wide open.
It's not an open door policy, it's a no door policy with Coach Barnes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, the Office. I mean, he just signed a new extension through 23-24. They spent millions of dollars on a new office for him and for the team, and the team loves their new digs, and yet he's put a desk inside the gym, and that's his office.
It is. It's a portable desk, and he loves being around his guys. I mean, he has a renewed energy and renewed focus about him coming out of Texas once he got this job, and has really embraced the city of Knoxville and the Vol for Life theme that resonates through here. And we went with him to lunch today, and he just fits in.
Yeah.
But he loves being with his guys, his players, and he has a tremendous relationship with them. He's really grown and changed as a coach, Ravi, over the years in terms of how he engages with his guys, how he treats his players, how he talks to them, how he develops them. And they love playing for him. That's a huge thing in college ball.
We saw that today when we were talking with him, and Grant Williams just sort of sidled up next to him.
Yeah.
Like eavesdropping on the whole conversation, kind of having some fun with him. And here's a run out for Schofield. Touchdown, Tennessee.
I talked about the bad hands of Schofield during the game. Those were great hands by Schofield. That was not an easy catch going full speed.
Ouch. That hurt. Cole's down. Schofield's limping around, man. This has become a war of attrition. Everybody's cramping up and banged up.
Look at the catch going full speed like a big tight end running a seam route in the SEC. And he could be one.
He could. That may be it for Admiral with 8 points. So neither Williams nor Schofield appear as if they're going to reach the 1,000 point mark. They both will be poised.
Oh.
Ouch, that left leg bent in an odd position for Cole. But neither look like they're going to get 1,000 tonight, which would set up a possibility of them getting it in their next game. If this is mucking it up, they may want to kind of figure a new method of attack. Otherwise, they'll have no players left.
You're right.
But they built him a big, beautiful office, and he doesn't use it. Do you have a room in your house that you don't use that you say, wow, like they built him a gorgeous new office? It's like the old living room. Remember how people had this like museum living room that no one ever sat in, but it looked beautiful when you walked by it?
I actually do have a room like that.
Well,
we call it the wall of shame. We just don't want to go in there. There's bad memories in there. When you come to Fayetteville this year,
yes,
you're going to stay with us.
Yeah.
And you can stay in that room, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Because I know they're working on the Jimmy Dykes wing at this Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. Right?
It's under construction. It is under construction. We hear it's going to be an addition to 10 square feet.
The highlights of Jimmy Dykes' coaching career.
You think I'm kidding about that wall of shame?
No, I don't.
No, we'll video it and put it on the air. Well, they can put you in long possessions. Tennessee can on the offense, on both ends, really.
That shot by Williams would have got him to 1,000 points, but he missed the three.
Force tough twos right now for Tennessee. Don't come off three-point shooters.
Tough shot by Alston, huh?
They've made some of those tonight. I've been impressed with Georgia Tech's determination to drive the ball against really good individual defenders of Tennessee.
Leads only 10 with 2:19 to go. So without Alvarado on the floor, they've managed to hang around.
Barnes lifting his offense a little bit as well, trying to get an easy one at the rim.
4 on the shot clock for Bone. Gonna take a contested one. He gives it to Alexander, and that doesn't go. And that's gonna be a foul on Bowden. So down 10, $1:51 to go, and free throws coming for Georgia Tech. That'll be the third on Bowden. Basketball Hall of Fame tip-off semifinals Saturday. Michigan GW, South Carolina, and Providence at noon, and then at 2:30. The championship game Sunday, 1:30 or 3:30, ESPN or ESPN2, and you can always watch these games on the ESPN app. And of course, next week is Thanksgiving. You got any plans for Thanksgiving?
One.
What do you got?
Going to the Bahamas, Atlantis.
What?
You were there last year. Yes.
Oh, you're working. You're not just going to be sunning. You're going to be working.
I'm going to be working and see some outstanding teams down there. The field in Maui is loaded. Everyone's anticipating Duke and Auburn maybe in round 2, and Gonzaga on the other side. And in Atlantis, where I'm going to be with Dan Dockich, we have Virginia down there that's going to be a real threat to cut down the nets this year. We got Oklahoma and Florida in that top bracket, Wisconsin. Stanford.
I'll be in Orlando. We got LSU there. You got Florida State there. Villanova, the defending national champion.
Feast week. When we come out of Feast week, we know a whole lot about the landscape of college basketball.
And of course, Jimmy Dykes, the most excited member of the Dykes family to be going to the Bahamas.
I would be third on that list. I'm extremely excited. Our daughter Kennedy has been researching Atlantis for the last 7 straight weeks. She could be a tour guide at this point in her life as a 13-year-old.
Again, 5 on the shot clock, and the lead only 8. Williams. Oh, big shot, Grant Williams. Big shot.
There's just not many like that in the college game. And he's expanded his game now to be a serious drive threat to the rim from 20 feet out, something we didn't see a lot of last year.
3 ball, no good, and that was the dagger, I think, from Grant Williams to get that lead back to 10. He goes to the floor, and it's going to be Georgia Tech ball.
Ravi, when we talk about power drives this year in college ball, this is what we're talking about. With the shot clock winding down, again, his ability to get his shoulders lower than the defender, and now the game is in his hands. That's a strong, powerful dude with a finesse finish at the rim. So hard to defend.
And to avoid having that shot blocked, too.
Yeah.
Shows you how far Williams has come. And again, Grant Williams is a junior. He very well could come back for his senior year. He's likely going to do exactly what Schofield did and go and see what the NBA, has to offer and where he would fit in. Go through that process. It wasn't until May 29th that Schofield announced he'd come back for his senior season, and maybe Williams does the same thing once his junior year is over.
Well, he put so many things on the scouting report board, and he's a very dangerous screener. If you get too much separation from him, he's going to slip and just hammer it home around the rim. He's a mid-post mismatch monster that we haven't seen a lot out of his game tonight in terms of that area, just feeding the ball in the low block when they reverse it back and they duck in and just blows you up on step-ins. But he is I've used the term hard to guard for 20 years now in college ball. That guy sitting right there with a towel on his right shoulder is hard to guard.
Yeah.
Just his ability to square his body up and power through contact. Any play that involves contact, it's a 50-50 deal. He's going to win it. And he plays with great urgency, he has a joyful spirit about him too, similar to Zion Williamson at Duke. And those kind of guys, man, they're magnetic. They pull the team together. His voice for the past 48 hours, it feels like we've been in this gym, has been outstanding. I mean, we've heard Rick Barnes' voice in practice, and right behind Rick's voice, I thought yesterday for sure was Grant Williams, as should be for an upperclassman.
31 points in their last victory, 22 more tonight. And again, the reigning SEC Player of the Year has certainly done nothing to dissuade others from thinking about that this season. Foul on the inbounds. Christian Scholand, the freshman, comes into the game and immediately picks up a foul off of a steal. And Jordan Bone will go down the other end to shoot free throws.
Ravi, I've actually seen some good things from Georgia Tech. Actually, more impressed with them in person than I was on film coming in. Again, the question mark is, can they shoot the ball?
Right.
I mean, they have not answered that question at all tonight. It's gone the other way on them. But Georgia Tech could actually be better this year and still finish in the bottom 3 or 4 of the ACC because the thing's just loaded up. I talked about earlier that I think there's 5 teams in the ACC that could legitimately win the national championship. Duke, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida State, and Syracuse. And that's the mountain that Josh Pastner is trying to climb in that league.
Think about Florida State off of that impressive win over Florida. They're playing without Kofor, who was their best player last year. He'll be back probably 3 or 4 weeks from now.
What Josh tell us today when he took the job, he said people are saying, oh man, it's the perfect time to get in the ACC because Boeheim and Coach K, Roy Williams, Leonard Hamilton, they're all going to be retiring. The league's going to open up. It didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
Those guys aren't going away.
He figures they're there for another 10 years.
Yeah, and they're continuing to rack in high level number 1, number 5, number 10 ranked recruiting classes. It's unreal what those guys continue to do.
Yeah, the Duke game in their game against Kentucky, for the first time you get exposed to that team. You know, that was a sick performance.
Yeah, it really was.
Like everything went perfectly, and we're seeing tonight, even in game 3 for Tennessee, they're not close to being perfect yet.
No.
That game by Duke that night, I mean, if that was a shot across the bow, every team recognized, like, whoa, Zion Williamson is enormous, has finesse and physicality, and the other guys around him are all kids, and they're looking like they're, you know, juniors and seniors.
The NBA is dominated by unorthodox style guys, and Zion Williamson is exactly that. That can't be the high water mark, though, for Duke this year. They can't look back and say, we played our best game 1.
This is another great story today. Why don't you tell people about that man right there, and what he's been dealing with.
Yeah, Tom Stacoviak is just a real blessing to be around, but he's been battling actually on the transplant for a liver for a couple of years now, and it finally came through for him about 5 weeks ago, and he was released yesterday from the hospital in Nashville. And when he walked back into the shoot-around today for the first time, the team was in the middle of practice, and they just sprinted to the other end of the floor to love and embrace Tom. And it's such a blessing to see him back, and he's been up against it now. He's been up against it in a serious way with health, but now he's on the road to recovery, and we're so good to see him back on that sidelines tonight.
Every member was on the floor stretching. They saw him, and every member got up off the floor and literally from one end to the other to embrace him. Rick Barnes went down there, gave him a big hug. They're very close, so that's one of the other positive signs tonight for Tennessee. And he was, you know, for the most part quarantined. After the surgery, he was in the hospital for 3 days, and they basically quarantine you, given all the meds that you're on, for about 3 weeks. And finally, he was asking, when do you think I'll be able to go home? And the doctor said, I see no reason for you to stay here any longer.
Yeah.
And he made the ride from Nashville to Knoxville. Certainly grateful for the great work. He said, I've now become a huge Vanderbilt fan, except when they play Tennessee.
There you go. Well, I haven't changed my thoughts on Tennessee. They did not play perfect at all tonight. There are a lot of things for them, as it should be this time of year, to work on. But they still have all the pieces. They check all the boxes, like you and I were talking about on the drive over here. They can win in ugly games, but they are a handful. And they have their sights set on an SEC title and a run to the Final Four. And they're not going to run from those expectations, nor should they.
Nope. They're going to win this one 66-53, led by 22 from Grant Williams, 15 from Jordan Bone, and 12 from Kyle Alexander. Rick Barnes has tied John Wooden on the all-time career wins list with his 664th. I think we'll do this again. It'll be fun. But enjoy the Bahamas.
I will. I'll try hard.
I'll see you soon. 66-53 your final. And we will send you to SportsCenter with Jimmy Dykes. I'm Carl Ravitch. Enjoy the show, everybody.